Hello, Chris.
Hello, Eddie.
So we're here with Chris Boyer at the Mackenzie course. So this is a great thing because you have a lot of experience in some areas that Romanian physios really do not have. So your information would be really helpful for us.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So if you can share some things about you for the internet to get to know you better, it would be great.
Oh, sure. I'm Chris. I've been a physio now for 8 years. I'm a diplomat in mechanical diagnosis and therapy, or Mackenzie, MDT. I'm board certified in orthopedics in the United States through the American Physical Therapy Association. I'm currently finishing up a fellowship in manual therapy through IFOMT and AOMT. And in my practice, it is a direct access, mostly orthopedic and sports clinic, but I see patients more often than not before they see any physician. So I'm the first touch.
Okay, the first touch things is it's something that we never do here. Can you tell us more about this? About working with people firsthand, like people come to see you firsthand, right?
Yeah. So you have to be very curious about them, and you have to know about non-musculoskeletal problems that can look like musculoskeletal problems. So that was a really big part of my education. Where I went to school, they prepared us to be what we call a direct access provider, or the first touch. And we had focused courses on what was called primary care. So we think about infectious pathologies, issues with vasculature. We became relatively good at identifying fractures, both from radiology rules, such as the Ottawa rules, but also interpreting x-rays. So we don't act as physicians, but we know enough about pathologies that look like musculoskeletal issues to say, you know, this is a little too concerning for me to feel safe about evaluating your musculoskeletal system. I think what we need to do is get you to a physician. So
this is really useful because a lot of physios here in Romania know about this thing that in other countries, in some European countries or in the USA, some physios are seeing the patients firsthand. And some of us really want to do that. But we should think about this, about the fact that you in your education really learn about a lot of stuff that we don't in our education. So maybe do this first and it would be a great idea, and after think about seeing the patients, let's see firsthand, right?
Absolutely.
So another thing is you said to us that you are a specialist both in IFOMT, so you are a manual therapist, and also you are a specialist in MDT, in Mackenzie. So how do you find the connection in those two, let's say, methods? How do you find them? They are complementary, or?
Yes, they're certainly complementary. If you look at IFOMT, it was started by a group of diverse people who had very different practice patterns. Because if you look at the manual therapy from Freddie Kaltenborn, for example, it's very different than that from Gregory Grieve or Stanley Paris. So really, IFOMT has always been an eclectic group of people. Manual therapy is in many ways a thinking process. And depending on your training, you think through your clinical problems in a specific way. MDT is also a reasoning process. So when you have a problem in front of you, inevitably you start to apply your training to solve that problem. But you see, no model can be perfect.
Of course.
And we know this from science. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle, Gödel's theorem. We can't know everything about a system being inside of it ourselves. So what we do is we apply models. And when we apply our model for problem solving, the model is a reasonable approximation of reality, but it's not perfect. It's like predicting the weather. So when we use one model and we say, you know, that's not giving me really a good answer here, that's our cue to, I think, shift our focus a bit and say, what if I apply this thought process? And in clinical reasoning, we call it dual processing. Dual processing is a difficult thing, though. It's not for the novice clinician. So the training that I've received for manual therapy has allowed me to implement this dual processing, but within MDT.
Okay.
So I am still thinking within the symptomatic response, the mechanical response, really optimizing patient-generated forces first for not only safety, but patient autonomy. But now when I have to use my hands, I can use some of my manual skills to help be more specific with where I apply my techniques, or when I'm using my techniques as a diagnostic assessment versus a therapy.
Okay.
So in a way, it's like a hand fits in a glove, I think, for manual therapy and MDT. Of course, you can do MDT with the techniques that we teach, but I've found a great amount of value in getting additional manual therapy training to be even more specific with my hands.
And a quick nerdy question.
Yeah.
For me personally. So if you can give us a list of people to search for to really get to know the history of manual therapy, because you seem to know a lot of them, what would be some people who you think we really should read about them?
Well, thankfully, the history is well documented, and there is a lecture from Stanley Paris. It was the Mary McMillan lecture that he gave to the American Physical Therapy Association. It's in PT Journal, and he gives a history of manual therapy. Stanley Paris, very important figure in American physical therapy, but not many people know that he was actually from New Zealand. Contemporary Robin McKenzie's and Freddie Kaltenborn, so they're all around in the same time.
Okay.
But he was very well-versed in the history, and he's also done several podcast interviews.
Okay.
He did an interview with Mark Laslett, that Mark Laslett put up for free, which you can find on Mark Laslett's LinkedIn.
That's great.
That goes through it. But he's been interviewed on other podcasts as well, where he goes over the history of manual therapy. The content is identical to what he told Mark Laslett. So I would encourage anyone to read what Stanley Paris has written or seek out his podcast. He gives a great history of the major players of manual therapy in the history of it, really over the past 100 to 150 years, even beyond manual therapy and just into the history of physical therapy and physiotherapy across the world.
Okay, that's perfect. I will look it up. Thank you for sharing. Tell me if you have some advices for a beginner physio who wants to be really good with his patients, what he should do in regards of that.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to just stay curious and really to remain humble, because this is not an easy profession. It's not easy for even the master clinicians, because there are people that we can't necessarily help, and that's okay. Not physical therapy, physiotherapy is not meant to solve all problems. But if you remain curious and you continue to reflect on your clinical practice, then you're going to do a good service for your patients. You want to make sure that you're not missing any medical conditions. So that's being thorough with your history. And then when things aren't adding up from a physical standpoint or a musculoskeletal standpoint, is to be curious and to say, maybe this needs some alternative investigation from the physician. So that's very important. But I'd say the last thing is just to understand that you'll never know it all. Even if you become very proficient in one system is not the complete picture of reality. That's just impossible. So to remain curious, remain humble, and try to eliminate the following phrase from your vocabulary, which is, well, in my clinical experience. Okay? Because it does matter. Clinical experience really does matter, but it can cut both ways. It can help you, or it can really bias you. So think like a scientist. Be skeptical of your own findings. Challenge them, test them. Work with your colleagues to hold each other to account for what you do in the clinic. And I think if you do those things, you'll continue to grow, and you can really have a lot of fun in the growth. Because otherwise, you could just get stressed and burned out, and perhaps, you decide to quit physio. So look at it as this is a growth experience from a day-to-day timeline.
Yeah, perspective does matter. So physiotherapy is a very big subject. So as you said, there are a lot of things we can do with the patient. So I think there are things to learn all our lives. So there are a lot of things to learn about the human body. So it can be maybe frustrating, and we sometimes maybe get burned out. But on the other perspective, we have so much to do with the patient, and we have so much good to do to them, because we are staying a lot with our patients, and I think it's a very beautiful profession. So yeah, perspective, it's really important. So
absolutely.
Thank you about your advices. One last thing, if you can tell us more about where we can find information about the McKenzie course, or about you if you are active on social media or something like this.
Sure. The McKenzie courses and McKenzie material can be found at mckenzieinstitute.org. There are different pages for each country that has a large McKenzie presence. So I'm a member of McKenzie Institute USA, mckenzieinstituteusa.org. All of the branches are somewhat active on LinkedIn and Instagram. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Boyer, and you can find links to the different articles that I've written on my LinkedIn page, or you can just search my name. The articles aren't terribly exciting. Most of them are on statistics, but there is one case study which is related to using repeated motions, which is a little bit more digestible and less sciencey.
Well, I think every study is a good study to read, let's say. I mean, we don't have enough hours in a day to read all the studies.
Correct.
But I'm sure they will be interesting. Thank you for all the information. It was a beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you again, Eddie.